Let's continue the selection by opening up the wagon JPEG. So select the wagon, should look something like that. Zoom in. So we will be attempting to select the outline of the wagon. So select the pen tool. Before we start, I need you to check on this little gear icon that you see there and check the rubber band. This is actually a visual cue of where your path will land when you're doing the selection. We'll know that in a bit. So I'm just going to zoom in here. Quick zoom in will be Control Spacebar and click on the mouse and spacebar to move your canvas around. Remember this, it is extremely helpful. So let's start by selecting this point of the wheel. You can see that there is this elastic rubber band that kind of follows the cursor regardless of where I move. This is actually a visual cue for you to sort of like know where the path will eventually select. Okay, so we want a very smooth curve on the wheel. So the trick here is to have as little anchor points as possible. So I'm just going to click this area, click and drag to extend the handles from the anchor point. Click and drag, and you can see that the elastic rubber band starts to show this very gentle curve. So the next point I'm going to click on is this area right in between the two wheels. Click and drag just to make sure that the path falls or sits within the wheel itself. So it's quite obvious that the next anchor point I'm going to be clicking on is this area, but as you can see, the rubber band is not really cooperating with me because there is this extension of the handle there that you need to get rid in order to continue with the path. So I need to get rid of this handle because this is an acute change of direction. If you come across an acute change of direction in the path, you need to get rid of the handle. The handle is there if you want to continue with a smooth curve path. So in order to get rid of the handle, I'm just going to hold down alternate key and click onto the anchor point, and the handlebar is gone. So I'm just going to use the spacebar, shift the canvas slightly to the right, and continue from here. The next anchor point I'm going to click on and drag is this area right at the bottom of the wheel. Click and drag, you can see. Do not let go until you are satisfied with the curve that you have done here, that you have selected. And the next anchor point is directly beneath the handle. Click and drag. Right now, anytime that you feel that you are not satisfied with the curve, you can always click on the history palette here that you can actually undo this, and go back to the previous actions that you have done. So this is an extremely helpful tool to use if you feel that some of the anchor points are not to what you expected it to be. So back to this, you'll notice that I can't really click on and continue because this is again an acute change of direction. It is not a smooth curve, so I need to get rid of this handle in order to go on. So holding down the alternate key, I'm going to click again onto the anchor point and continue from here. So I'm just going to quickly just click once. I really don't need to create the handles unless, in this case, I zoom in, there is this curve here. So I'm just going to click and drag to create a curve, and the next point is going to be a straight line. So as you can see, this handle here is preventing me from having this selection. So I'm just going to get rid of this handle by holding down the alternate key, clicking once into the anchor point, and have a straight selection. There's a slight curve here, but I'm just going to do this really quickly. I'm just going to click and let go, click and let go. It's just adding anchor points so that the selection areas will be very clean and smooth without the edges. So I'm just going to quickly do this. You can actually do this really fast by just moving the canvas at the same time, just by holding down the spacebar to move the canvas and to click and continue from there. So it's just adding anchor points without adding the handles. Right, I'm just going to ignore this part. I'm just going to go past this area. It's not really that important. So moving on. Oops. Okay, going back a little bit here. So when you come to this area, it's a little bit tricky. So I'm just going to click once here to set the anchor point, and the next one is going to be a curve. So I'm just going to click and drag to have the handle appear. So this is going to be a curve, so it's not going to be a change of direction. So with the rubber band showing that, you know, I can actually click here and it will create this very smooth curve. So I'm just going to move on. It's going to be a straight one here. I'm just going to ignore this curve. Just going to go on like that very quickly. Just adding anchor points all the way around. Just going to ignore that. And when it comes here, there is a change of direction. Just going to click on that. Now, one of the key things to take note of is to zoom in really close to your image when you are actually selecting your adding anchor points. It's so much more easier to actually tell to actually know where the anchor points is going to be placed if you zoom in very close. So as you can see, I'm doing this really fast. You can take your time, but I just want to keep this video as short as possible. So the whole idea here is that if it's a straight line, you just have to click to create the anchor point, and that's it. Now when you come to this area, the wheel, let's zoom out here, the top of the wheel is going to be a slight curve. So I have planted an anchor point here. So the next anchor point that I'm going to plant, I need to extend out the handle to create a curve. So I'm just going to click this area and drag, and you can see that there is this slight curve. Now the next anchor point that I'm going to plant is somewhere around here, but as you can see, the path is not really that straight at all, so I really need to get rid of this handle. So same thing, I need to click on or hold down the alternate key, get rid of the handle, and then continue from there. So the next point is going to be a curve. So I'm just going to continue from there, get rid of the anchor point or alternate key. I'm just going to continue like that, here, over here, here, and here, 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 and I'm just going to ignore that for now. And we're almost done, as you can see, from where we started initially, and this is where we end. And we have to close this path by having this full path from where you start all the way around the wagon, and you can close this path by moving your cursor to the start point, the start anchor point. You'll know it when the cursor shows this square, little square box just beside the icon. Just click on it, and then that's pretty much it. You have successfully selected the whole wagon using the pen tool. This is just part 1. Now what I need you to do is to save this first, then we will continue in the next video. Sorry, you should save as Photoshop wagon before we go on to the next video.